Welcome back to Iron Anchor Cycles. I'm Shep, and we're back with another product spotlight on something we use all the time here in the shop, so wanted to share some more information about it with you. And what that is the vented transmission top cover from Trask. Now, we've been talking for a long time about oil pressure issues in the Milwaukee 8s, and more specifically, pressure building up in the crankcase of these motors. Now, there have been a bunch of different solutions to that problem, and we've used a bunch of those different solutions. And over the last several years and months, there have been different things that have come out along the way. And I think with each iteration and each manufacturer that comes up with a solution, it seems like we're getting a little bit better and a little bit better each time. You may remember we did a video a while back on Fueling's vented dipstick for your oil tank, and that was a good solution, but this is a better one, and there are several reasons for that. To talk a little bit about what the problem is before we get into the solution, if you've got a Milwaukee 8 motor, particularly a high displacement Milwaukee 8 motor, so a 114, a 117, or if it's been built 124, 128, 130, up and up and up, what you'll know is that there is excessive pressure that builds up in the crankcase of these motors. Now, this is purely a result of the physics of the displacement of the motor increasing. So as you increase the displacement above the piston and you're moving a certain volume of air in and out of your cylinder, that same volume of air is being moved on the underside of the piston. And as the motors have gotten bigger and bigger, the breathers that exist on these motors, and have so since, I guess, the 70s when the EPA started regulating this, are venting from the crankcase up through passages in the cylinders, into your heads through a valve, then out your heads and into your air cleaner. And that worked for a very long time, but as the motors have gotten bigger and bigger, that system just really isn't providing enough ventilation for these high displacement, larger motors. So what's the solution to that problem? Well, for Harley and the manufacturer, there really isn't a better solution because the EPA won't allow them to vent the crankcase pressure to the atmosphere. So that's why it recirculates back through your air cleaner and ultimately into your motor. Now, that's not a bad thing necessarily, but if you've got oil that's coming up through there as a result of there being a lot of pressure and the oil getting caught up in that air moving up, you're gonna get oil going into your air cleaner, and you're gonna get really two problems that are gonna happen there. Oil's gotta go one of two places. It's either gonna drip out your air cleaner and get all over your bike, which is a mess, or, in my opinion, maybe worse, it's gonna go into your throttle body, through your intake runners, and into your motor. And it creates a whole big mess in there. You get a lot of buildup on your pistons, and it's really not something you want. So there have been a number of solutions to solve this problem, like I mentioned, but the, I think, latest and greatest is Trask's solution, and we'll talk about why we think that is. Number one, when you vent your crankcase, you can vent it really anywhere that it's connected to the crankcase. So the oil tank or oil pan becomes the most likely place to do that because those two things are connected, and if you relieve the pressure off the oil tank, it will relieve the pressure off the crankcase. So the vented dipstick option or a vented oil cap option, there are some that just use a cap as opposed to a dipstick, that works. However, it presents some challenges, most notably that your oil is very close to your oil dipstick. So the likelihood of you getting some oil that comes out through there and gets out of the motor and goes through and into your filter and clogs that is possible. What's nice about venting this through the top of the transmission is that it's the very, very, very highest point on the system in terms of the oil pan itself. So the oil is way down at the bottom, and this vent, or this top cover with the vent in it, is all the way up at the top. So it's very unlikely that you're gonna get oil coming up through here as opposed to just air coming out, which is what you want. So that's number one, that's great. Number two is that this is really a set it and forget it kind of a thing. In the case of your vented dipsticks, you're gonna have to, that's gonna be in your way, let's put it that way, right? So the fueling dipstick is made of aluminum, so it gets hot, so you need a glove to be able to take that off when you're changing your oil. You've got that little hose you have to unplug. None of those are deal breakers, it's all manageable. But with this solution, this top cover goes on, it connects to your hose and to your little filter element that'll sit up above the motor, and you're never gonna have to really do anything with it. I mean, it's possible you'll have to clean that filter, but you're not gonna have to deal with this in any way. Your oil, changes and checks will all be done the same way with no parts to get in the way, anything like that. And this will just kind of sit here and be along for the ride, which is really nice. It's not difficult to install. Basically, all you're going to have to do is take your transmission top cover off, which has 6 screws in it. You're going to take the little vent tube, which is the vent for the transmission, out of your original top, and you're going to put it into this one right here, and you'll have that same little sort of 90-degree little elbow there that's going to vent your transmission. And what you're getting with this cover is an additional vent that's going to go down to the oil tank. So essentially, it's pretty easy to see looking at the bottom of this cover. Underneath your transmission cover there, your transmission case is divided into 3 sections. You've got one section, which is where your shifter assembly lives. You've got another section, which is venting your transmission itself. And then you got a third section, which goes straight down to your oil pan, so your engine oil, not your transmission. So what that's going to do is allow you to use the sort of plumbing, if you will, that's already built into the case to your advantage to be able to vent your oil tank out the top of the transmission case. So you're going to put this on, comes with a new gasket here. Not hard to do. The only thing I would say is, you may need to get a little creative with the wrenches that you've got to be able to kind of get in underneath the cylinder to get these off, but certainly on the baggers, this can be done even without taking your exhaust off. On the Milwaukee Softails, in my experience anyway, you do have to take the pipes off. That rear head pipe gets in the way of getting to some of these. On the baggers, you can get it, at least I can, all 6 from the other side, so it's not a big deal. But even if you have to take your pipe off, it's really not the end of the world. Take your old one off, put the new one on, excuse me, and plug in your hose, route it up on top of the motor, and you're good to go. So the other thing, and I'll just pull this out and show it to you, is the vent on this, and this is another feature of why I think it's better. It is a bigger vent than what the previous solutions have offered, so particularly the fueling ones. So you've got your hose here, and it's going to plug into your filter element, which looks like that. And this one, you can really take it out of the bag. So it's black, blends in pretty well. What we do is run it up over the rear cylinder and let it kind of sit up above the throttle body underneath the fuel tank. Now, you might wonder, is this going to drip oil all over your motor if any oil gets in here? And the answer is, I've never seen that happen. So the beauty of it is, and I'll just kind of throw this on here so that you can see what I'm talking about, is that if your transmission cover is here, and remember the oil is down below it, and you're going to plug your filter hose in like this, and then run it up over the top of the motor, hopefully you can see that this is the absolute highest point on the whole system. So air will be able to come out of here, but the likelihood of oil traveling all the way up, all the way from the bottom of the oil tank, getting up into here, traveling up through this hose, and then coming out on your motor is pretty unlikely. So it's a really, really, I think, elegant solution to this problem, and it works really well. So if you've got excessive oil coming out of your air cleaner, this may be a solution that will help you to solve that. And obviously this is not 100% guaranteed that no oil is ever going to come out of your air cleaner again, because you still have those breathers that are doing their job in your crankcase and sending air into your air cleaner through the head breathers. If you find that you're still getting oil coming in there and you really just want to 100% eliminate that, you can go to an external breather kit if your air cleaner allows that. Most air cleaners from Milwaukee 8s nowadays are starting to have that as an option. Horsepower Inks does, Trask's does, Fueling's got a new air cleaner setup that's coming out. They have an external breather kit for it. So there are a lot of options. And I guess that also leads me to another point of, is an external breather a better solution than this? And the short answer is no. If you are really wanting to be 100% covered, the answer isn't one or the other, it's both. And the reason I say that is because although they address similar symptoms, they really do 2 very different things. And let me see if I can sort of explain this in as simple terms as possible. This Trask cover is going to stop the problem at its source. It's going to eliminate the pressure or significantly decrease the pressure in your crankcase that's leading to you getting oil in your air cleaner. The external breathers are not going to address the problem at all. They're just going to route the symptoms somewhere else. So you'll take those external breathers, and usually we just run them down. You could put a catch can or something like that. You usually just run them down to the ground and let, if a couple little drops of oil come out of there, they just go to the ground and it's not a big deal. But it's not solving the problem. It's just moving the oil from going into your air cleaner down to the ground. So obviously that does solve your symptom problems. You're not going to get any oil going into your intake manifold and into your throttle body, and you're not going to get any oil blowing along the side of the bike coming out of the air cleaner. However, if you've got excessive pressure in your crankcase, which is what's leading to that problem, you're not solving it and you still have that pressure issue. So the symptoms will be entirely eliminated by an external breather kit, but the problem will be solved by using one of these. So for me, I think the Trask top cover is worth putting on just about any Milwaukee 8 motor with any kind of large displacement on it, particularly one that's got work done to it. We recommend it. And if you want to go the extra step and add the external breathers, I mean, at least for me personally, I own one personally, a Milwaukee 8 bike. It has both external breathers and one of these on here just because I want to be 100% covered. But basically, I wouldn't go the route of saying I'm going to put external breathers on and not do this and go, well, there's no more oil in the air cleaner, so I've solved the problem. You haven't solved the problem, you solved your problem, but the problem going on in the bottom end of your motor is still there. It's just been masked to a certain extent. So hopefully that explains kind of the difference between the two. It's a question we get a lot when we're doing engine builds for customers here, so I thought hopefully that might be helpful. So in any event, it's a great product. I didn't mention, obviously, we showed the black one. It comes in chrome as well. And if you're interested in buying one or learning more about it, we've got them on our website. Links in the description below. You can go check it out. So hopefully you found this helpful, and we'll be doing more of these coming up. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and we'll see you next time.